Hello and welcome to the Confusion Wrestling Podcast, the last bastion of independent wrestling. I'm your host, Rob Kammer, and this week, well, let's be realistic. This week is the first episode of the new year. I really kind of wanted to take a break during the holiday season, and I felt like one of the best ways to do that is to do just kind of like a year-end reviewy summary of 2025. So happy new year. Unfortunately, we're not going to do a cool one where I got a bunch of clips from the show because again, I didn't want to work over break, and this is a one person show, literally one person show. Like I if you guys are new to this or have just started listening within the last like handful of episodes, I don't have a producer, I don't have an editor. Obviously I don't have an editor. If you've listened to any episode you'd know that, but I don't have a social media team or anything. This is just a dude grinding it out on the internet while, trying to stay humble while being braggadocious enough to promote a bloody podcast and make you think I'm important enough that my words have any sort of weight to them. Spoiler alert, they don't really. I am just another neckbeard with a microphone. But hopefully I've been a cool enough neckbeard with a microphone that you've listened to a batch of episodes, that you're a returning listener. If you're not, this is like your first episode. Great, cool. Like, I appreciate that too. But 2025 was at least as much as like dumpster fire the world is. Like, personally speaking, not, and again, this is very personal speaking, like household level, like a better year than 2025 or 2024, excuse me. But like 2025 has been a great year. Like 2024 kind of sucked for me personally, despite like the podcast doing all right. But like I feel like we've kind of taken the podcast to the next level, and I think part of that indirectly is the biggest thing was rebranding this year. The old heads know that this podcast used to be MLW Confusion, and in like early in the year, and I've been threatening various points like for a handful of months before that, but I finally took my soapbox and put my money where my mouth is and did something about the threats. Like I've been very vocal in various media platforms about my disdain for the wrestling industry tolerating abusers, whether they're physical, emotional or sexual type predators in the locker room. And they're, MLW chose to take two of them and push them to the top of their company, and I couldn't handle it anymore, and so I stopped. With that, I moved on to my next phase, which was basically just saying, "F it." Like we are just doing indies. We are giving a spotlight to the industry, and hopefully in a way that promotes some positivity and gets eyes on various products that the normal fan may not get to see normally, and hear the stories of those people and hear about those companies that you may not know about normally because, streaming is, a jungle. People don't have money to add another streaming service, etc., etc., etc. And so, like, I rebranded. We are strictly interviews and just giving the spotlight to independent promotions, and like so that really kind of like really took effect come February-ish or so. I don't know. I didn't check my timeline. I didn't do a whole lot of research. The only thing I did was just like make a list of things, but I didn't put any dates or any sort of like for it. So so we rebanded. So Mr. Holiday, who doesn't know what Air Confusion came from, it's from MLW and their old television program, Fusion. This is with Fusion, or I'm confused, however you want to look at it. But otherwise, like, this has been like 2025 is year number 6 with the podcast, and it's, we're past the toddler years, and it's cool. But like more importantly, as I said, like we've branched out. We got to do some cool stuff. So with the rebranding, with the refocus, like I've got to go talk to a lot of cool people, like over the year, and like some of them, like I don't want to say like all of my guests are super cool. Like but like some of them like really stood out, just because of my own kind of like personal beliefs and things that like I think we need to draw attention to in life in general. Like I've joked that this podcast is a DEI podcast. Like I want to bring in folks who also are outside the fringes of the mainstream per se, whether that's character, whether that's how they present themselves in general, whether just if they're into I don't know some kiki stuff, or whether they're a person of color, a person on the rainbow, all that sort of good stuff. And like so it's been like really cool, like knowing that I've had a whole this year alone, I've had a whole batch of people who have been on the QWI 200 list, and I know I specifically got to talk to Maurice about that, about like the importance of like this of this inclusion, and then other folks such as the Luminary, who we've talked about just inclusion in general and how important that is in wrestling, is how much inclusion and representation matters. So it's been like really cool to have like Maurice and the Luminary and Urza Tinker like all on to kind of talk about these things. And also we've gotten to do like cool stuff. Like I got to nerd out, and I don't know how available, like how much that like I got to convey me nerding out, like, but gotten to like talk to Marion Fontaine. Like that was like a super cool thing. It's one of my favorite episodes, where I just got to nerd out, talk old wrestling, because I love that company, and then like I got to review one of their YouTube shows for the podcast later on. And then like we got gave a spotlight to some of my podcaster friends. I know previous year or 2004, did have the Wizard CZ on. This year had his co-host Nick Bull, gave shout outs to Crander Q of Friends of the Squared Circle, and of course Muffins Martinez of the rest of the Urban Wrestling Network. Like a bunch of cool dudes on that front as well. And like it's been great being able to network with all these folks and be able to directly, indirectly, bounce ideas off of each other, and just have that extra layer of support. But yeah, like it's cool. We also, going back this summer, I did my first group. Well, I did like two different group episodes. I did a round table, I think in February, talking about gimmicks of the 90s. Just thought it was fun. First time we went live with it. The only time we went live with it. Then also then later in the summer, did my first like full stable interview, like an interview rather than a round table, as John Bonhart, Tori Fox, and Mark Storm all made their returns to the show, to talk about their group Animosity, which we've all like touched on directly, indirectly, depending on like where we were in the process of Animosity's existence, as both Storm and Bonhart had appeared on the program, and finally like herded enough cats to get all three of them together. And like that was just crazy, go nuts, just doing a group interview like that. And then like follow up, like that was a whole group, and then I did a pair, a duo, with the last technically the last episode of the year, with Chris McMenamin and Christian Levins of Misfits, the film, and that was actually really cool too, to like an ego boost, pulling back the curtain, to have like them actually reach out to me and be like, hey, like you seem like you're a cool podcast, like we have a wrestling adjacent movie, like can we talk about it? And like just the fact that like, one, it was a legit offer, and then two, just like the pat on the back to have someone just like say like, hey, like you were cool and respectful enough to we want to hop on and plug some things. So that was freaking awesome as well. And just like I don't know, just being able to branch out like things like that, to talk about Misfits the film, doing the group shows, even like did some people who didn't pull back the curtain per se, and had some interesting episodes with Auntie Heidi and Evil Kip Stevens, who, regardless of whatever happens else, like I found to be fascinating and a challenge in another a different sort of way as well. And there's batches of folks I got the list in front of me who I haven't shouted out, and by no means is this a slight towards any of you all, but dude, it was a big year. Did like 30 interviews ish or so, probably not that many. I'll have to like count like the real number, but I'm not going to do that while I'm recording, nor am I going to fix it in post, because what is that? Post is for interviews. This is just me rattling incoherently. But yeah, it was really cool to be able to branch out and do that, and then by proxy, kind of like see the results pop around. As a result of this expansion, I don't always brag about it online. And I don't know how many people of you guys like actually follow my socials or whatever, and not that I talk about it that much anyway. But like, thanks to like this, like I've been a regular feature on the Joe Monroe show. It's cool being able to just talk wrestling with a bunch of cool dudes. This coming month, speaking of Joe Monroe, by proxy, the Wrestling Society Network, gonna hop on A Bear's Thoughts. He's doing Podcaster Appreciation Month in January, so I think it's like the last Thursday maybe of the month. I don't remember offhand. Don't have the number in front of me, but stay tuned to the socials on that, and I'll plug that later on as well. But we're gonna whatever Bear wants to talk about, I'll talk about. Like, I don't know, I like Bear. Bear is a good dude. So if you haven't, also go check out the Wrestling Society Network, whether it's via YouTube, Roku, the app itself, etc., etc., etc. But like, it's cool to be able to be recognized by my peers enough to say like, yeah, you're entertaining enough to be like hopping on my show and just talk for a bit. I've also got a cardie for Fakest Wizard. I don't know how I'm the fakest wizard, but whatever, man. I will be the fakest wizard possible if it's going to get me another trophy for the trophy case, and something tangible to show people about how awesome I really am. So thank you, Card Subject to Change, for that. And like, occasionally I look to see like podcast charts, and for some reason the Finns love me. So if you're from Finland, hey, how you doing? Shoot me a message just to tell me why the Finns love me, because I really don't know, unless we just share a hatred of the one called Manders. I legit don't know what's going on there. But doing well in the wrestling charts over in Finland for whatever reason. And for some odd reason, got listed as a batch of 8 wrestling YouTubers that you should be checking out. Not really consider myself a YouTuber. I have done YouTube videos. Obviously, this podcast also pops up on YouTube, but I don't consider myself like a YouTuber because I don't do like the VTube stuff where I have an animated thing, or I don't do a whole lot of videos showing my face or whatever outside of like clips from the podcast. And even like the podcast itself is just the podcast. It's not like video from interviews or anything like that. And so if this is on YouTube right now, you're not seeing anything but the podcast logo. So I don't really. I numbers are numbers, and listeners are listeners. Wherever you get it, it's great. But like, I don't recommend, unless you're a guy or gal who puts YouTube on and then just zones out. Confusion, not a great YouTube thing, but Scott Holiday +2 Wrestling gave a shout on that, so that was really cool to see that. Yeah, and I got some things to show for it. I'm not super awesome, I guess, unless you go check out like the Good Pods charts, then I'm exceedingly awesome. I'm just a dude who watches wrestling, and man, I watch a lot of wrestling, whether it's the old stuff, or like finding out about newer companies that have been established within like the last year or two, or just new to me. I finally got to check out some Rad Pro Wrestling. That's a lot of fun to watch if you're kind of like into 90s nostalgia kind of thing. Old wrestling, not new to me, but like still, if we're in the time doing the time stuff, that's fun to watch. Cover them on the show. Power Pro Lucha Libre is like absolutely great. It's like my biggest find of the last year. So, kind of like probably one of the closest spiritual successors to Chikara I've seen yet. Not that, no offense to like Elvac, etc., but like it was super cool. Watched Maccabee Mania 3, and as a fan of the first two Maccabee Manias, like just seeing it with a little bit more production value, and the we'll call it the boost from Wrestling with Regrets, Brian Zane was a lot of fun to watch as well. And I did have to message it because this probably like the biggest nerd out moment of the year for me, like to toot my own horn. But Jeff Buchantz, the mighty Maccabee himself, the promoter of the Maccabee Mania events, shot me a message after listening to the episode. And I'm not going to say the episode was great or anything, but like he just shot me a message just saying he appreciated the fact that I was willing to talk about it and indirectly promote the show even after the fact. But that was just freaking nerdy goodness that I loved. But yeah, I think I covered like all my big talking points. Didn't even leave a spot for adverts. I don't know. We'll make this one ad free, I guess. Happy birthday, happy New Year. But I just wanted to take some time to show not be as glib as I normally am about things, and like let everyone know how much I appreciate the support I get while doing this podcast, because there are 1,000 million podcasters out there, and like, yes, do I have my opinions on a lot of matches of them? Yes, I do, of course. But the fact that you've chosen to listen to me, whether you are a regular listener, or you just found this randomly, or you just, I don't know, hate me and are going to take notes to bash me in the comment section or tell your friends how much you hate me, I mean, so be it too. But like, I do appreciate the time everyone's taking to listen to this here hobby of mine, the hobby about a hobby. And I'm looking to continue plugging on into 2026. Got like one project where I think I'm going to start. We'll see how it goes in the next week or so. We'll do that. It'll be stupid, but whatever. Let's face it, like you're not listening to this podcast for expert analysis, unless you're a certain wrestler who will listen to me. So do critiques of his matches, and then he critiques my critiques of his matches. But it's you're not listening to this show to get like expert opinion. You're just listening to a dude who might occasionally have a cool opinion every now and again. But we're gonna try to do some more spotlighty stuff, visually speaking, get in on the trend of short videos, and pushing a little bit more content. So that I can say for sure. And I don't know, maybe it'll last 2 weeks and I'll get bored and like stop it. I don't know. But we'll try that. We'll see that. So that'll start up next week. And then I have another project that's outside of, we'll call it the Confusion umbrella, that I'm really excited for if it goes through, but I have no control over it, and it's not been officially announced yet, so I can't say anything about it, or I'm not going to say anything about it, because I will say it's wrestling. It's wrestling based, and like anything else in life, wrestling is fluid. Card is subject to change. No pun intended, or no extra shout out intended to the Wizard CZ. At least not officially, until he wants to give me another type of another award. I'll take another award, and maybe I'll plug more stuff and take the tongue firmly out of my cheek in the process. But yeah, I'm really excited for that venture, should that actually come to pass. And of course, once I get the official announcement that it's okay to make the official announcement at my end, I will make the official announcement at my end, because I'm super stoked about it. So again, I've rattled on for like way too long for someone who's just riffing it. But again, I thank you guys for your support, for listening. for tolerating me as I rattle on incoherently into the ether, whether I've got guests on the show with their stories, or if it's just me flying off the cuff about professional wrestling and wrestling that I've happened to watch. But of course, most importantly, support independent wrestling. These are your stars of tomorrow. These are the stars of now. Let's be realistic about it. And most of them are super cool, and I have not been killed yet, despite Abbott on Reddit willing to square up with me for a mistaken comment, or me party fouling in front of Alley Catch. That was also fun. Great year for professional wrestling and meeting people. Go Rob. But thank you guys for listening. Thanks any of my guests that have been on the show listening now. Thank you guys for coming on and being so bloody cool and just giving your time to me in one way, shape, or form. And I'm really excited for what 2026 brings. So thank you guys a lot. I am going to put the plugs and all that things to help support the podcast in, even if I didn't put my terrible little adverts in there. So let's do this. Let's get ready for 2026, and I'll see you all next week. The Confusion Wrestling Podcast is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to help support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is helpful as well, because word-of-mouth advertisement is very important for us small podcasts. My social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky are at The Nova of Cass. That's TheNovaofCass, and Facebook is MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual tip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, go to patreon.com/Casanova, that's CASSONOVA, where for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Chris Zach, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast store on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the affiliate links in the description below. For business inquiries such as ads, sponsorships, and etc., please email rzkamer, Kamer, at comcast.net. Thank you all for listening.